So now let's talk about more on the vocabulary strategies. But before that, let us first define the word vocabulary. So do you have any idea if what is vocabulary? Alright, so vocabulary, this refers to the words that is used in language that we must understand in order or so that we will be able to communicate effectively. So it is said that vocabulary improves all areas of communication. So do you have any idea if what are those areas? Alright, so we have listening, speaking, writing, and reading. So in listening, we must know the words for us to understand what we hear. For speaking, we need to think of inappropriate words, how we use it as we speak. So in writing, so for example, if we craft an essay, we use familiar words. We doesn't usually use complicated words for us to be able to understand it easily. For reading, we need to know the words so that we will be able to understand and comprehend the words or the sentences that we read. So vocabulary is very important, and it is said that vocabulary is critical to child success for the reason that first, vocabulary growth is directly related to school achievements. Second is the size of child's vocabulary in kindergarten predicts the ability to learn to read. The third reason is that vocabulary helps the children to think and learn about the world. So the fourth reason is that expanding a child's knowledge of words provides access to new information. So in general, vocabulary is a useful and fundamental tool for communication and acquiring knowledge. So now that we are done with defining the vocabulary and stating some important points, so let's move on to the different or some of the vocabulary strategies.
Hi, my name is Rose Antonym, and my partner here in explaining what configuration is Mr. Amfrager Bitanta. So, configuration. Think of many possible ideas of what really is configuration to you. We might have said that configuration is about the updates that is going on in our laptop or a computer code. We can also say that configuration is about finding the electrons in scientific method. We can also say that configuration is about mathematical configuration. Configuration have lots of meanings. But now let's just focus on configuration that can be seen in vocabulary strategies. If a teacher trains a child to watch the shape, patterns, and outline of words as a reminder of its meaning, the pupil is learning configuration. Now you might have an idea of what configuration is based on the description above. And now you're thinking again, is configuration a word that has shapes, patterns, or outlines? Well, let's see. Now, what is configuration? Configuration relies less on word study and shifts to the less obvious patterns and shapes of words as memory tricks. Meaning to say, configuration uses shapes, patterns, and outlines to write words. Like for example, this one. The word heart is written alike to a shape heart. So, this helps the student to simply remember the word. The word itself were formed into its shape. These next examples are very common to us because we have encountered or experienced answering it in our elementary grades. So the first example here is star, so the missing letter there is letter T. And the next example there is box, which is letter B is the missing letter. As what you can observe, the words there is written inside a shape. Using configuration as part of vocabulary strategies can really help the students guess and identify what the word is. Because as what you can see in our examples, you can see a lot of patterns and outlines of what this word is about. It can also really help the students in generating what are the letters that are really needed in that word.
In addition of this configuration, a process of arranging the elements of a learning environment is often jointly undertaken by teachers and students. Teachers may set in place and recommend a configuration that they believe will enable students to succeed with a specific learning task. A configurable theory of associative learning is described that is based on the assumption that conditioning results in association between the unconditioned stimulus and a representation of the entire pattern of stimulus that was present prior to its delivery. Integrate flexible elements from each of these categories, which means that any teaching and learning configuration meant to be flexible in some way requires that learners learn to create and master something. It is a step-by-step process wherein the teachers conducted their classes based on what the curriculum implemented, in which they provide the specific lessons and clear instructions on what their students need to do after the said discussion, wherein students do their duties and responsibilities on doing the given task. Configuration in the education is a collaboration of the teachers and their students. It eventually happened when a teacher gave discussions and provided tasks what their students needs to do. In order for having the results of what they expect, the students will work of it. It helps them to discover new things, new ways and techniques in order to achieve the outcome they desired. Teachers are like an operator of a machine which conduct and control on how the machine must work, while students are like the machines who process and do the work in order to accomplish the products. If there is no teacher and students, or one of them are not present, there is no configuration happen, because in achieving what we want, everything that can make a product into success should be present.
When was the last time you ran across with an unfamiliar word? How did you decide for it? Well, chances are you may look it up in the dictionary, but what about if the dictionary is not available? Is it still possible to understand the word without looking it out in the dictionary? Well, the answer is yes, of course. That's what we are going to learn in this discussion. Faced with a sea of unfamiliar words, readers or we tend to learn many techniques for understanding words and expanding our vocabularies. And one of the techniques is the use of context clues. So, what are context clues? Context clues are the words and sentences that surround an unfamiliar word and help explain the word's meaning. So these clues offer insight either directly or indirectly into the a person of the text that's difficult to understand. These clues may appear within the same sentence as the word to which it refers, or it may follow in a preceding sentence. It is important to know the context of the sentences because it provides a meaning and clarity to the intended message. Let's explore various types of context clues to see how they work. Let me give you some ideas. I for inference, letter D for definition, letter E for example, letter A for antonym, and letter S for synonym. So let's start with inference. Inference. The meaning of an unfamiliar word can be inferred or guessed from the description of a situation. Our keyword here is guessed. When you infer, you will try to guess, right? But of course, it's not a wild guess because your basis will be the context. So the clues or the signal words is that you are going to look for clues over several words or sentences. For example, their vociferous chatter made me wish I had an earplugs. So take a look at the word earplugs. We all know that an earplug is a device that is inserted in our ear canal to protect us from noises. Another clue is the word chatter, which means is to talk rapidly. So we could say that vociferous means talking loudly to the extent that they are already disturbing other people around them. Second is the definition. The meaning of unfamiliar word is directly or explicitly explained in the sentence. So, these are some of the signal words that would help you identify the meaning of the unfamiliar word. Okay, number one is, are, is cold, or are cold. That is defined as, means, or refers to. For an example, he knew his future was precarious, which means likely to fall apart. So, our unfamiliar word here is precarious. And there you go. The definition is already given in the same sentence, which is likely to fall apart. So our clue or signal word here is means. Okay. So the third one is the example. An example of the word is in the sentence or nearby sentences. So in here, the sentence provides one or more examples used to define the term. And here are our clues or signal words. For example, for instance, including, such as, specifically, and to illustrate. So for an example, celestial bodies such as the sun, moon, and stars are governed by predictable laws. Alright, so our clue here is such as. And our example here are the sun, the moon, and the stars. So these are the example of celestial bodies. So the fourth one is the antonym. When we say antonym, it is a word that with opposite meaning is used in the sentence or nearby sentence. So the sentence may include a word or words that have the opposite meaning, which can reveal the meaning of the unknown term. This type of context clue give us hint to the meaning of the words by telling us what they are not. So clues are included in the sentence to tell us what an opposite thought is about to be presented, and the opposites are the antonyms that we're looking for. For example, while Ben is hardworking, his indolent brother spends most of the time watching TV or sitting around with friends. So our unfamiliar word here is indolent. By just simply reading that word, we cannot really understand what does it mean. But when we continue the sentence, we can see the clue word here, which is while. If hardworking is the opposite, then that means that indolent means lazy. So by just looking at the opposite meaning of the words, we can know the meaning of this unfamiliar word. So the fifth one is the synonym. When we say synonym, those are the words with a similar meaning used in or near the sentence. In here, the author will use more than one word that means the same thing. One is more difficult and the other one is a simple word. So these are some of the clues. Commas, semicolon, dashes, a parenthesis, or that is in other words. For an example, his animosity or hatred of his brother divided the family. So our unfamiliar word here is animosity, which has the same meaning with hatred. Hatred is the synonym of animosity. In other words, animosity is something that you dislike or you hate. So, you see, it's not so tough. Use the context. It's not so rough. Use your clues. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. The last subtopic will be the structure analysis. We discovered the importance of using structure analysis, which tend to understand unfamiliar words. This time, we will discuss furthermore about structure analysis. So what is structure analysis? Structure analysis, it is a word analysis. So when we say word analysis, it involves an understanding of a word parts, which is consists of root word, prefixes, and suffix. So we will tackle about that later. Also, it is the process where it is the breaking words down into their basic parts to determine the word meaning. Although the meaning suggested by the word parts may not be exact, this process can help you understand the word well enough that you can continue reading without significant interruption. Structure analysis also teaches children to break apart words into phonic units or group of letters and use those to build meaning for a word. Also, it is possibly more useful to upper elementary and junior high school pupils who have some experience in reading and recognize the system that underlies some words. So it is very useful in higher grades in a way that they can determine, understand, and give deep meaning on that certain word. So structure analysis also is cannot stand by itself. So the can't stand by itself there tackles about the structure analysis where they will just determine the word they know and cannot give deep meaning. But if you will be going to combine some phonic skills and context information, the meaning will be wide and have different information gained. We will going to understand structural analysis more. So unfamiliar words are a lot like a puzzle. So when we come across a certain word, we don't know or understand. But it helps if we can look at it like it's a puzzle that can be broken apart into a puzzle pieces. So structure analysis is a dividing words into parts where we discover what is an unknown word means. So the word parts contribute to the overall meaning of a word, which are the prefix, the root word, and the suffix. So what is root word? Root word is a word that does not have a prefix or a suffix and is the base or core that can be reduced into a smaller word form. So for example, the word agree. It is our root word. It means to conquer or in a simple say, the same opinion. So the next one will be the prefix. Prefix is a letter or group of letters that is placed at the beginning of a word to change its meaning. So for example, the root word agree that I've mentioned earlier will be added by a prefix this, which means that not or opposite of to the root word agree. So that will be disagree, which simply means not to agree. The next one will be the suffix. Suffix is a letter or group of letters that come at the end of a word and change its meaning. Suffixes can indicate how a word is being used grammatically and what tense is being used. For instance, the word agree that I mentioned earlier becomes agreed when you add the suffix "d", which means it is discussed and negotiated by all. Another example will be close. Put the suffix "d" so it becomes closed, which means to show that the action already took place and it is over. Although both prefixes and suffixes change the meaning of the word, the key to not getting the two confused is to remember that pre means before and soft means after. The three basic parts of structural analysis helps the students or learners become more proficient readers. Root word, prefix, and suffix helps learners develop new vocabulary word with a wide meaning in it. We will tackle about the importance of structural analysis. Number 1, we will learn to break apart unfamiliar words in order to understand their overall meanings. So with the help of the three basic parts of structural analysis, learners will be able to know on how to break words that will give overall and different meanings. So the next one will be, we understand how prefixes and suffixes can change a word's meaning and how much of our language is constructed. So by that, prefixes and suffixes gives different meaning. By knowing it correctly, student will be able to identify and to know what prefix and suffix will be added in that specific root word. For example, kaganina nga agree, gipunan ako siya og this, so nahimo siyang disagree, day na usab ang iyahang meaning sa usa ka word. So sa suffix po nga agreed, which is the suffix "d" nga akong gipuno sa last, lalahi po ang iyang meaning. The third one, it will increase vocabulary and reading comprehension. So by this structural analysis, learners gain new words that will increase their vocabulary and can increase their capacity in reading. So some notes says that the critics of structural analysis said that it is not always work out. But for me, this is not true because, as what I have observed, learner learns best by the syllabic words with different meaning and lead to the realizations that not just one meaning apply on it, but there were wide meaning on it with the help of prefixes and suffixes. So these advanced decoding strategies help students learn parts of words so they can more easily decode unknown multisyllabic words. In this analysis, students are told to read prefixes and suffixes. So I have here the sayings of William E. Nagy, which says that knowing that abs means away from and track means to draw, pull is not likely to help a student encountering the word abstract for the first time.